Asterisk at my sister's wedding. Her new husband made a toast mocking me for being just a waitress with no future. Everyone laughed. My own parents clapped. My ex, who dumped me a year ago, smirked from the groom's table with my sister. So I stood up, walked to the mic, and dropped a truth bomb that shattered their perfect little fantasy. I never thought my rock bottom would involve a 5-tier wedding cake, fake smiles, and my family clapping while someone humiliated me. But let's rewind a bit. My name's Tessa. I'm 28. I work at a diner off Highway 47 in a dusty town that smells like wet concrete after it rains. I make good tips, I know my regulars, and I like my life. Or at least I did, until my sister Harper, the golden child, decided to marry my ex-boyfriend. Yeah, you read that right. I dated Eli for 3 years. We were planning to move to Austin together. Maybe open a food truck, maybe just survive and see where life took us. But then my dad lost his job, my mom got sick, and I gave up everything to stay and help them. Eli didn't wait. He needed to grow, he said, broke up with me in a grocery store parking lot, and ghosted me a week later. Fast forward 8 months, Harper shows up with a diamond on her finger and Eli by her side. Like they didn't commit the world's most boring betrayal and expect me to just clap. I was invited to the wedding because family comes first. That's what my mom said, the same mom who told me to wear something not too tight so I didn't embarrass myself in front of real professionals. She said it with a smile. So I showed up in a dress I bought with tip money, heels I hadn't worn in years, and a fake smile so tight it made my jaw hurt. The ceremony was fine, boring even. But the reception, that's when the world cracked open. First, they sat me at table 17, in the back, with kids, a lady on oxygen, and some guy who kept calling me Tina. My name tag clearly said Tessa. Then came the toasts. Harper's best friend did the usual stuff for childhood memories, college parties. We always knew they were perfect for each other. Then it was Ellie's turn. He stood up with that smug, polished look he always had when he was trying to sound smarter than he was. He thanked his parents, his in-laws, and then turned toward me. Even Tessa's here tonight, he said with a grin. I mean, what a surprise, from pancakes to parties. You made it out of the diner. Howl, laughter, actual applause from my parents. I felt my ears burning. My palms went cold. Harper giggled and leaned her head on his shoulder like it was all some inside joke. And that's when I made a decision. I stood up, walked to the mic like I was floating outside my body. I didn't plan a speech. I didn't even think my voice would work, but I grabbed the mic anyway, smiled at the room of people who thought I'd roll over and take it, and said, well, Eli, thank you for reminding me why I left you. Silence. I heard someone cough. My dad's face turned the color of expired milk. Actually, I continued, I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to sit here, eat my dry chicken, and leave. But since we're doing speeches, I turned toward Harper. Congratulations, sis. You've officially become everything you used to cry about becoming. You told me in high school you never wanted to marry someone like Eli. Remember that? You called him controlling, a narcissist. You cried in my lap when he ghosted you last year. I guess wedding bells make people forget. Gasps, whispers. I wasn't finished. And Mom, Dad, I get it. I'm not the one you brag about. I serve hash browns. I don't own a law firm, but at least I'm honest. And I didn't build my life on top of someone else's broken heart. I handed the mic to the DJ and walked out. Half the room followed me. My phone blew up. Some were furious, some stunned. One guest sent me a video of the whole thing. It had 10,000 views by the next morning, but I wasn't thinking about that. I just sat on the curb outside the venue, dress bunched around my knees, mascara probably smeared down my face, and stared at the streetlights. Then, a voice behind me, you okay? It was the wedding photographer. The guy I hadn't noticed before, said his name was Max. And that moment, that's when everything started to change. But here's a question I can't stop thinking about. Would you have walked up to that mic in my place, or swallowed the insult and stayed silent? Asterisk. Max didn't say anything else at first. He just stood there, holding his camera like it was a shield, watching me wipe my eyes on the hem of my dress. I didn't know the bride had a sister, he said finally. I laughed. It came out bitter. Yeah, neither did she, until she needed a full guest list. Max sat beside me, careful not to wrinkle his pants. That was a hell of a speech. Wasn't supposed to be. Well, it was honest, and brutal, and kind of incredible. I stared at him. You enjoy watching family meltdowns? No, he said. But I enjoy watching people grow a spine. Most folks in there don't even have one. He offered me a flask. I didn't ask what was inside. I took a sip. Burn going down. Perfect. Look, he said, I gotta finish the job. But if you need a ride later, or someone to scream into a void with, I'm parked around the corner in a beat-up Civic. And just like that, he stood up and walked back inside. I sat there for another 10 minutes, then stood up, brushed the gravel off my legs, and walked to the parking lot. I didn't want to go back in, but I had left my purse under the table. When I re-entered the reception hall, everything had changed. People weren't laughing anymore. My mom was standing in the corner, red-faced, whispering furiously into her phone. My dad looked like he was trying to dissolve into the wallpaper. Eli gone, Harper, crying in the bridal suite. I grabbed my purse and turned to leave, when a woman stopped me. Middle-aged, expensive dress, perfect makeup. You're Tessa, right? She asked, voice low. Depends. Am I getting sued? She smiled. I'm Ellie's aunt. And for what it's worth, I'm glad someone finally said it. Then she handed me $100 bill and walked away. No explanation. No follow-up. I left. Later that night, back in my apartment above the diner, I watched the video again. It had been posted on some random guest's social media. Caption: this is how you shut down a trash wedding. Comments were already blowing up. People were calling me a legend, a savage, a hero. Some were even tagging talk shows. I turned off my phone. I wasn't trying to go viral. I just wanted them to know I wasn't made of glass. But the world had other plans. The next morning, I came into work at 6 o'clock a.m. sharp. Coffee, apron, grease on the griddle. Same routine, except people kept staring at me. First a couple from Ohio, then a trucker with 3 pancakes and no manners. You're the speech girl, right? One of them asked. That video was insane. You should be on the Real Truth Hour or something. I mumbled something about just doing my job and refilled their coffee. By lunch, 3 different people had tipped me $50. A man in a business suit tried to pay for his eggs with a selfie. One customer offered me a podcast deal. And then Harper walked in, full bridal glam, mascara smudged, wearing one of those silk bride robes like she forgot the wedding was over. She marched straight to the counter. You ruined everything. I raised an eyebrow. I thought I just told the truth. You embarrassed me. In front of our friends. In front of his boss. You always do this. Make everything about you. That stopped me cold. Me. You married my ex-boyfriend and acted like I was the extra at your wedding. He chose me, she said, her voice cracking, because I actually wanted a future. I stepped back. You think working at a diner makes me less than you? She looked me dead in the eyes. Yes. And that's when I realized we were never sisters, not really. Just 2 girls raised in the same house, taught the same twisted rules. I pulled off my apron, tossed it on the counter, and walked out. The manager called after me. I didn't turn back. I didn't know where I was going. I ended up sitting on the sidewalk outside the diner, same spot I'd sat last night outside the wedding hall, like a bad rerun of my own life. 10 minutes later, a horn honked. Max's Civic rolled up. You always sit on sidewalks after explosions? He asked, leaning out the window. Only the memorable ones. He grinned. Get in? I did. We drove for 2 hours. Windows down. Music loud. He took me to a beach to towns over where no one knew me. We ate greasy fries and talked about everything. Dead dreams, annoying families, and how he once ruined a proposal photo because a seagull stole the ring. It felt free. Like breathing for the first time in months. That night, as the sun dipped into the water, Max turned to me and said, you ever think about starting over? I stared at the horizon, then nodded. I think it's time, but what does starting over really mean? Is it running away from the pain, or running towards something better? What would you choose if your whole past exploded in one day? We got back to town just after midnight. Max dropped me off in front of my building and hesitated before I opened the door. If you need anything, like help hiding a body, or burning a wedding dress, I'm good at both. I laughed before. Real this time, noted. He waited until I was inside before driving off. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't replay what happened. I just stood in my kitchen, barefoot, holding a jar of peanut butter and whispering, it's over. But I was wrong. It was just beginning. Next morning, my phone blew up. Turns out, the video had hit 1.4 million views overnight. My inbox was flooded with interview requests, messages from strangers, even a few offers from publishers who thought I should write a book. A talent agency offered to represent the voice of working-class justice. I was still wearing sweatpants and hadn't brushed my teeth. By 10 a.m., the diner called. Linda, the owner, sounded apologetic. Yes, I hate to do this, but we're getting calls, a lot of calls. Some people think you planned the speech for internet fame. Others are threatening to boycott. Harper's mom came by screaming about defamation. She's not even my mom's friend, I said. Doesn't matter. We just can't afford the noise. And just like that, I was fired. No warning, no severance, just a thanks for the chaos and a dial tone. I sat there, phone still in my hand, stunned. 10 years. 10 loyal years working that counter, covering shifts, showing up sick, staying late when Linda's grandkids had soccer practice. Gone. All because I dared to speak up. I stared at the ceiling for a while, then opened my laptop. There were 3 messages from someone named Andrea Blackstone, apparently a producer from a daytime talk show. Subject: come tell your story to America. Something about it felt off, but at that moment, I didn't care. I needed to breathe, so I clicked yes. 2 days later, I was flown to New York, first class. They put me in a hotel with sheets so soft I thought they were liquid. A stylist did my hair. A woman with 6 espresso shots in her blood asked me what angle I wanted. Angle? You want sympathy, empowerment, working class underdog, family betrayal, viral queen? I blinked. I want the truth. She blinked back. That's rare. They dressed me in a pale blue wrap dress and heels that could have doubled as medieval torture. I waited backstage while the host, some loud, polished woman named Shauna, introduced a segment like it was a boxing match. Today on Real Talk. She called out her sister at the altar and shook the internet. Please welcome Tessa Marks. Applause. I walked out, blinding lights, a fake smile plastered on my face, heart pounding so hard I could barely hear the host's questions, but I answered them. I told the story again: the betrayal, the wedding, the mic drop, the humiliation, the fallout. The audience ate it up. Then Shauna leaned in, voice lowered for drama. But Tessa, your sister Harper sent us a message, and she's backstage. She says you're the villain, that you ruined her life. Should we bring her out? The audience roared. I froze. Every part of me wanted to scream nitrogen monoxide, but I nodded. And out came Harper. In a pearl blouse and crocodile tears. She sat down, didn't even look at me. I was humiliated, she said. I lost my husband, I lost my friends, I haven't left my apartment in a week. You mean the husband who was dating both of us at the same time? I snapped. Audience gasped. Harper blinked. That's not the point, it's literally the entire point. Shauna looked thrilled. Ladies, we have video. And they rolled it. The original wedding speech, and edited. People cheered. One woman stood up and shouted, you go, Tessa. Harper looked like she wanted to melt into the couch. I didn't ask to be viral, I said quietly. I just wanted them to stop treating me like garbage. Then I stood up. I think I'm done here. Applause again, not polite applause. Thunder. I walked off stage and ripped off the mic. Back in the green room, Max was waiting. He had driven 8 hours to surprise me. I figured you'd need a getaway car, he said. And I did. We stopped halfway back in a small town with one stoplight and a donut shop that looked like it hadn't changed since 1974. Over cinnamon twists and black coffee, Max said. You know, I've got a friend who runs a nonprofit media site. They're looking for someone with guts, someone who can write. You interested? Are they okay with diner girls who blow up weddings? He grinned. That's a bonus. I took a breath. Let's do it. I didn't need Harper. I didn't need a polished life. I just needed a pen, a voice, and one person who believed in me. But I couldn't help wondering, do you believe that one single moment, one impulsive, messy, heart-pounding moment, can change your entire life? Or do we make our real choices in the quiet ones that follow? Asterisk. It started with one article, just a short blog post on Max's friend's media site, or a piece titled, The Night I Took the Mic at My Sister's Wedding. No clickbait, no hashtags, just truth. It went live on a Tuesday morning. By noon, it had 150,000 views. By midnight, over 1 million. People weren't just reading, they were writing back, sharing their own stories. Waitresses, teachers, janitors, cashiers, folks who'd been overlooked, laughed at, called names by the people they loved most. The inbox flooded with messages like, I thought I was the only one. You said what I never had the courage to. Thank you for standing up. I feel less invisible now. For the first time in my life, people didn't look through me. They looked to me. I started writing weekly. They gave me my own column, Diner Thoughts, simple, punchy pieces about real life, toxic families, workplace humiliations. The quiet dignity of getting back up when the world tries to stomp you flat. No filters, just grit. My favorite piece was called The Table by the Bathroom, where I talked about how being treated like the afterthought at family events mirrors the way we're often placed at the edge of people's lives until they need us. That one went viral and just like that, my life was no longer something I tolerated. It was something I was building. Meanwhile, Harper's world was crumbling. After her appearance on Real Talk, people did some digging. Turned out, Eli wasn't just a cheater, he was also under investigation at his old job for falsifying reports. Some Reddit sleuth uncovered emails between him and a coworker while he was engaged to Harper. The internet turned on them fast. Harper issued a formal statement calling it all a misunderstanding. But no one was buying it anymore. Her glow was gone. Sponsorship deals she had from her short-lived lifestyle blog dropped. Wedding photos she posted flooded with savage comments. And me, I was thriving. One afternoon, Max showed up at my door holding a cardboard box. "I got something for you," he said, setting it down on my kitchen table. Inside were photos from the wedding. Not the posed ones, the real ones. Unedited, raw, unstged. One in particular caught my breath. It was me standing at the mic, hand on my chest, eyes full of fire and heartbreak. The whole room behind me frozen, stunned. "You look like a warrior," Max said. I laughed. "Like an accidental arsonist." "Same thing, really." He framed it for me. We hung it on my wall. A reminder, not of the pain, but of the moment I woke up. Weeks passed. I had readers, a small following, an inbox full of strangers who felt like family. My words were helping people, and it felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. But then something happened that shook me harder than anything so far. A letter arrived in the mail. No return address, just my name, scribbled in familiar handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No salutation, just this: "You burned down everything for attention. Are you proud now? I hope you choke on your 15 minutes. Momi sat in silence, reading it over and over. No love. No explanation. No attempt to talk. Just poison. Mailed to my home like a bomb in an envelope. My hands shook. She hadn't called since the wedding. Not once. And now this. Max walked in a few minutes later, saw my face, and didn't even ask. He just wrapped his arms around me and let me collapse. "She sent it?" he asked gently. I nodded. "Then she doesn't get to rent space in your head anymore," he whispered. "Not after everything. But here's the thing. Even when you escape a burning house, the smoke stays in your lungs for a while." And that night, I cried. Not because I missed her, but because I'd finally accepted the truth. Some families only love you when you're small. The second you grow, they act like you've betrayed them. A week later, I got an invitation. A high school I'd never heard of wanted me to speak at their graduation. One of the seniors had written to the principal about my story, saying I inspired her to leave an abusive home and chase her dream of becoming a journalist. They offered to pay my travel and hotel. Said I could bring a guest. Max packed the bags. Before I even said yes, we drove 3 hours out to a small town where the gym still smelled like stale popcorn and floor wax. The graduating class had only 78 students, but their energy, explosive. I gave the speech with my heart in my throat, told them life isn't a straight line, it's a plate of diner spaghetti. Tangled, and usually better than it looks. Told them to speak up, even if their voices shake, to walk out when people clap for their humiliation, to never be afraid of making noise in a quiet room. They gave me a standing ovation. Afterward, a girl with bruises on her arms and hope in her eyes hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might break. "You saved me," she whispered. And just like that, the wedding, the speech, the betrayal, all of it made sense. It wasn't for them. It was for her. And maybe for me too. But tell me, if your own family sent you a letter like that, would you burn it, frame it, or send one back, saying, "Thanks for the fire, it lit my way out"? 2 months after the graduation speech, I got an email that made me stop breathing for a second. Subject: Harper Marks interview request. At first, I thought it was spam, or maybe a joke. But the email was real. A podcast producer from a major show said Harper wanted to share her side of the story and had specifically requested that I be present for a joint interview. Why? No clue. I didn't answer for 2 days. Just stared at the email like it might bite me. Max told me to ignore it. She's trying to claw her way back into relevance. Don't give her the match to your piece. He was right. But I was curious. So I said yes. We met in a studio downtown. Neutral ground. They gave us separate dressing rooms, separate entrances, separate water bottles like we were volatile chemicals in a lab. When I walked into the recording room, Harper was already seated. She looked thinner, tired, not weak, but worn down, like a dress left out in the rain. The host introduced us, clicked on the mic, and hit record. And just like that, we were live. Harper spoke first. "I didn't come here to win people over. I know how I look in that video, but the truth is, I didn't steal Eli from Tessa. He came to me. I was lonely. I was stupid. And I thought if he loved me more, I must be worth something." That stunned me, not because it excused anything, but because it sounded honest. "I've spent the last few months drowning in hate mail," she said. "People I thought were my friends vanished. My job let me go. My own therapist ghosted me. And the worst part, I deserved it. She turned to me. I never saw you. Not really. I was too busy needing to be seen myself. And that toast, that speech, it hurt. But it also broke something I needed broken. The room was quiet, even. The host looked thrown off. Then it was my turn. I wasn't trying to be famous, I said. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. You and Eli made me feel disposable. And my parents clapped while you did it. That night, I finally realized no one was coming to rescue me. So I rescued myself. Harper wiped her eyes. Don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not ready to, I said. But I don't hate you anymore. And I meant it. We finished the interview. There was no dramatic hug, no big reconciliation, just a nod, a quiet acknowledgement between two women who'd finally stopped pretending. Sometimes peace isn't loud. It's just done. After the podcast aired, the reaction was overwhelming, not just toward me, but toward Harper too. Some people called her a narcissist trying to rewrite history. Others said she was brave for showing up and taking the hits. But I didn't care about public opinion anymore. I cared about the silence in my chest, the calm that had replaced the buzzing anger. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for someone else's apology to validate my worth. I had my own back now. Later that week, Max and I sat on the hood of his Civic under a sky that looked like a velvet curtain dusted with sugar. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. What's that? I asked. He smiled. A grant. For what? For you. You've been selected for a writers in residence program in Oregon. 6 months. Your own cabin, meals covered, a stipend, and all the time in the world to write your book. I blinked. My book. You don't think Diner Thoughts belongs on paper. My heart the I didn't cry. I just laughed so hard my ribs ached. You applied for this behind my back. I know a good story when I see one, he said. And I'm looking at her. I looked at the sky, at the car, at this man who had stepped into my chaos and never blinked. You're coming with me, right? He grinned. Try stopping me. And just like that, the girl who once sat in the back of a wedding hall with no voice was driving toward a future she was writing herself. But now I have to ask, if life handed you a second chance, would you take it? Or would you wait for someone else to hand you permission to begin again? Asterisk. The writing cabin in Oregon was tucked between a lake that smelled like pine needles and a hillside that lit up gold at sunset. No neighbors, no cell signal, just birds, coffee, and the sound of my own thoughts for the first time in years. I wrote every day, poured my soul into the keyboard like it owed me back rent. The book started as a memoir, but evolved into something more, a survival map. A love letter to all the broken people who serve others while starving themselves. Max stayed 3 weeks before heading back home for work. Said he'd return after the launch. Left me a Polaroid photo of us from the diner. Scribbled on the back, remember who you were before they told you who to be. I kept it next to the laptop like a compass. By month 4, the book was done. The publisher loved it, called it visceral, raw, and electric. They wanted a full launch campaign, big press, national exposure. My story had become a product, but for once, I was in charge of the price. I asked them for one thing. I wanted the first reading to be back in my hometown. They hesitated. That might stir up controversy. Exactly, I said. The reading was held in the local library auditorium. The same one where Harper once gave a speech about leadership in high school, and my mom made me clap until my hands hurt. I walked in to find the room packed. Every seat taken. Local news cameras in the back. Max standing off stage, arms crossed, smiling like he already knew I was about to blow the roof off. I stepped up to the mic, this time, on my terms. I read a passage about dignity. About how being humiliated in public doesn't make you small and staying silent does. I read the chapter about the wedding. I read the one about the letter my mother sent. People cried. One woman sobbed so hard she had to leave the room. When I finished, they gave me a standing ovation that felt like justice wrapped in thunder. But just as I was stepping away from the mic, someone shouted from the back, Tessa. I froze. It was my father, gray, slumped, and older than I remembered. He walked down the hall slowly, one hand clutching a crumpled envelope. The room fell into a hush so deep it felt like the air had been sucked out. He climbed the stage and handed me the letter. I didn't open it right away. I looked him in the eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered, for what you went through, for not stopping it, for letting her do that to you, for clapping. Silence. You don't owe me anything, I said, voice shaking. I know, he replied, but I'm here anyway. I opened the envelope. Inside was a single photograph. Me, age 7. Sitting in a booster seat at our kitchen table, notebook In hand, pencil gripped tight, tongue sticking out in concentration. On the back, it said, "You were always going to write your way out." I didn't cry on stage, but later. I curled up in Max's arms in the back of the Civic and wept until my bones felt clean. The book hit the bestseller list in under a week. And Netflix producer called about rights. Talk shows lined up. Readers from all over the world sent letters to truckers, single moms, runaway kids, waitresses, artists, teachers, teens hiding journals under mattresses. I didn't just become a voice. I became a mirror for people who thought they were invisible. But that's not the explosion. This is, a few weeks after the launch, I got a call from Harper. She was in rehab, for prescription meds, for depression, for trauma she'd never dealt with. Her marriage to Eli lasted 49 days. He skipped town, left her with debt and a destroyed credit score. I read the book, she said, every word. And I realized, I've been the villain in more lives than just yours. She paused. Tessa, do you think people like us can heal? I took a long breath. Only if we're willing to hurt first, to feel it all, and not look away. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then quietly, "Thank you." 1 year later, Max proposed. Not with a diamond, but with a pen. He handed me a blank journal and said, "Let's write the next chapter together." I said yes. We married under the trees where I finished my first draft. No audience, no toasts, just laughter, vows. And to people who met in the wreckage and built something stronger from the ruins. And now, I'm not a waitress. I'm not a mistake. I'm not the girl at table 17 anymore. I'm a writer, a woman, a firestorm, and I'm just getting started. So I'll ask you one last time, if the people who broke you showed up to your story's grand finale, would you shut the door or hand them a front row seat and let them watch you rise? You decide. Asterisk.
That's the end of today's story. Did things turn out the way you thought? Or were there some surprises along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't joined the community yet, now's the perfect time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always the first to catch new stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.